About the Justice Department tonight. Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein is reportedly poised to leave the Justice Department next month. This comes immediately after former acting director of the FBI, Andrew McCabe, who will join us here tomorrow night, revealed on 60 Minutes that Rod Rosenstein participated in very serious discussions at the Justice Department about removing President Trump from office by using the 25th Amendment, which allows the vice president and a majority of the cabinet to remove the president and make the vice president the acting president, a decision that can then be overruled by Congress. It is a constitutional process that was put in place in the 25th Amendment in 1967 and has never been used.
It was really something that he kind of threw out in a very frenzied, chaotic conversation about where we were and what we needed to do next. The Deputy Attorney General was definitely very concerned about the president, about his capacity, and about his intent at that point in time.
In his interview with 60 Minutes this weekend, Andrew McCabe revealed he has provided evidence to Special Prosecutor Robert Mueller's investigation.
You seem to have a very clear memory of your conversations with the president. Why so?
I made memorandums to myself to make sure that I preserved my contemporaneous recollection of those interactions.
That's what FBI agents are trained to do, write memos to the file after they speak to witnesses.
That's what we're trained to do.
And where are those memos today?
Those memos are in the custody of the special counsel's team.
Robert Mueller's team?
That's correct.
Has your memos?
He does.
Before Andrew McCabe was fired from the FBI, the president spent a couple of years publicly attacking him and his wife, who ran as a Democrat for state senate in Virginia in 2015.
Did you expect to be fired 26 hours before you were able to collect your pension?
I guess I should have, because the president spoke about it publicly. He made it quite clear that he wanted me gone before I could retire. I believe I was fired because I opened a case against the President of the United States.
Andrew McCabe says he thought the president's firing of FBI Director James Comey could be obstruction of justice and should be investigated.
There were a number of things that caused us to believe that we had adequate predication or adequate reason and facts to open the investigation. The president had gone to Jim Comey and specifically asked him to discontinue the investigation of Mike Flynn, which was a part of our Russia case. The president then fired the director. These circumstances were articulable facts that indicated that a crime may have been committed. The president may have been engaged in obstruction of justice in the firing of Jim Comey. All those same sorts of facts cause us to wonder, is there an inappropriate relationship, a connection between this president and our most fearsome enemy, the government of Russia?
David Frum was the first. 7 days after Donald Trump won the Electoral College, David Frum first mentioned the 25th Amendment in a tweet and said that we would all be talking about it in the months to come, and we started talking about it on this program a month into the Trump presidency. The prescient David Frum joins us tonight. He is a senior editor for The Atlantic. Also joining us with his reaction to Andrew McCabe's revelations is Jason Johnson, politics editor at TheRoot.com and an MSNBC contributor. David Frum, let's start with you on both what we heard from Andrew McCabe and then, as if in perfect sequence here, we are hearing that Rod Rosenstein will be leaving the Justice Department in a few weeks.
Well, thanks for your good memory. I appreciate it. Since this 60 Minutes interview, you have seen a lot in conservative media describing the concerns that Rod Rosenstein and Andrew McCabe had as some kind of secret, stealthy coup against the president. Because the argument is, hey, all these senior officials appointed by the president himself thought he was crazy. That reflects really badly on those senior officials. And in fact, if you join this to comments by President Trump's first Secretary of State and other officials that worries about the president's mental state were rife within the president's most inner circle.
And Jason Johnson, we seem to have a divided politics here on people who are encouraged and reassured that there was at least some discussion of the 25th Amendment and how it might work in this case within the Trump government, and those who look at that as some kind of coup.
Well, you know, it's not a coup because it's in the rules.
Right.
You may not like it, but it's right there in the rules. There is a process put in place to remove the president. Now, the notes I want to see, as interesting as I found McCabe's interview, I want to see Rod Rosenstein's notes, because I don't believe for 1 second that he didn't have a head count. When he said Rod Rosenstein was suggesting how many different officials might be willing to go along with this, he had already thought about it. He obviously knows that there were enough people in the administration that this could be a real discussion. And so the idea that so early in this presidency that, again, Lawrence, as you mentioned, people that Trump had brought in himself were already saying this man is a danger to the future of this country, and they had already done a head count on it, at least on the back of some envelope somewhere stuffed in someone's pocket, is indicative of how dysfunctional this government has been for the last 2.5 years.
And, of course, the president is back at his job of tweeting attacks on Andrew McCabe since that interview. Let's listen to more of what Andrew McCabe had to say about the president possibly being in league with the Russians.
Are you saying that the president is in league with the Russians?
I'm saying that the FBI had reason to investigate that. Right? The existence of an investigation doesn't mean someone is guilty. And I would say, Scott, if we failed to open an investigation under those circumstances, we wouldn't be doing our jobs.
When you decided to launch these two investigations, was the Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein, on board with that?
Absolutely.
Absolutely on board, David Frum.
Yeah. Well, you know, people remember the 25th Amendment was prodded by the assassination of John F. Kennedy. But the authors of the 25th Amendment in the middle 1960s were closer to the Wilson administration of the 1910s than they are in time to us. They remembered that there had been, within 40 years, a president who was mentally incapacitated for a year, with results that were catastrophic for the stability of the United States and the peace of the world. They remembered Woodrow Wilson, and they also had that example in mind. Woodrow Wilson, you know, even with a stroke, was sharper than Donald Trump is today.
Jason Johnson, quickly before we go, when we have Andrew McCabe here tomorrow night, what more would you like to hear from him?
I would like to hear how many other people does he believe may have been interested in doing what Rod Rosenstein did. I mean, look, we had Omarosa pretty much walking around the White House with a GoPro on her head, recording every conversation she could. I wonder if Rosenstein or other people had said, look, can we record him? What should we record from the president? Because I don't think that he's the only person who had that idea. That's what I would like to know.
All right, I'm getting all my questions from Jason Johnson for tomorrow night. David Frum, Jason Johnson, thank you both for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lawrence.
And as